So there is anyway a difference between an Article 9 fund and an impact fund that I find hard to grasp. Finally, can an Article 9 fund be an impact fund or not?
Well, Anne-Sophie is the impact fund specialist on the team, so if you do not mind, Anne-Sophie, I will leave the answer to you.
Yes, that is a very good question, because in fact there is a lot of confusion between the Article 9 funds and the impact funds. It's normal to make the confusion, but for all that, Article 9 funds and impact funds have nothing to do with each other. They are two very different things. An Article 9 fund is one that is regulated by the SFDR, as you know, and as everyone else know. An impact fund, it is not a fund that is regulated. It corresponds to a market philosophy, an investment philosophy, also a market practice which is defined by certain organizations, but which is not regulated. So that's important. Having said that, the impact funds, to be impact funds, have to respect three important characteristics. And I'm sure you know what they are.
Yes, intentionality,
Exactly.
additionality, measurability.
Here you are. So what does it mean, these three things? Perhaps we can start with the first characteristics, which is intentionality. Having intentionality, it means investing in a company whose objective is to have an impact. In other words, in its business model, it seeks to have an impact before generating a financial return.
For example, a company that depollutes the ocean fits this first criterion because the company's very business model is to generate a major positive impact. On the little addressed subject, in our case, ocean pollution cleanup.
Exactly. The second characteristic, it is therefore additionality. Additionality, it means two different things. First, it is for the company, that is for the investment itself. The company must bring a new solution to the market and therefore have a positive impact on the environment and the social, so it has to provide a solution. So this is additionality at the level of the company in which the impact fund invests. And then there's a second aspect to additionality, namely the additionality of the fund. So here we are, the first component, which is the capital flexibility, that is, I take the time to invest and to let the company have an impact before exiting my investment. And the second aspect for a fund is the fact of having expertise, that is a management team capable of generating impact through investment and at the same time generating a financial return. And that, it is an expertise.
Yes, absolutely. And this aspect of additionality also counts for the investor, for the fund or the management company, which must also have company-specific expertise and support the company in its ambition to make a positive impact.
Here you are, exactly. And finally, the third characteristic, it is thus the measurability. And here the idea is to be able to measure all the aspects mentioned above, that is additionality and intentionality. And in particular, we measure it with indicators, that is the impact KPIs that can track and quantify the fund's impact.
And there are a number of funds that can be cited as examples, most of which you know, so perhaps we could have a little competition, but I'll jump right in. Maif Impact, Citizen Capital, Racine Carré, managed by Kyrie and Make Sense, for example. Mutual Impact, managed by Zange, and Investor and Company Mirova's Land Degradation Neutrality Fund.
Yes, Positive Invest from Archaea.
And so to conclude on this subject, an Article 9 fund, it is a regulated fund, whereas an impact fund, it corresponds to a market practice. The term Article 9 is more recent, having been coined in connection with the famous SFDR with which you are all familiar, which in fact requires certain categories of companies to take sustainability into account in their investments, and therefore to publish all policies, all the procedures associated with taking sustainability into account in their investments. So it will be, for example, this will obviously be the sustainable investment policy, the remuneration policy, also the risk management policy, and so on.
Very good. However, in other words, an impact fund can be an Article 9 fund if it decides to apply all the regulatory constraints to itself. And conversely, what I also understand is that an Article 9 fund may or may not be an impact fund. But the most surprising thing about all this is that an impact fund may not be Article 9. It seems to be automatic.
This is absurd. No, but why? Yes, indeed, it exists. Thus, there are impact funds that are not Article 9 funds. Because they don't want to go through all the formalities that can sometimes be burdensome, that can be perceived as burdensome by the SFDR. But having said that, being an impact fund that isn't Article NUF can be a hindrance when it comes to raising funds.
Yes, it does. So an impact fund, put another way, may not want to be an Article 9 fund. Okay.
Exactly, that is it.
Yes, because, for example, some investors, in particular institutional investors, they have objectives in terms of investing and articulating funds.